Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coach Krisler's Convos. Today, I am joined by Holly. Thank you so much for joining me today, Holly.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here. Can't wait.
Yeah, so as we start off with all of the episodes, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Well, let's see. Say that again. What were the three questions?
Who you are,
Okay.
where you're from, and what you do.
All right. So I am Holly Ladd. I am currently living in Oregon, Bend, Oregon, which is Central Oregon, after having lived in many different places, but I'm a native of California. And I have been a health coach, a functional medicine certified health coach for, I guess, 7 years, and health coaching for about 10 years. And I came to this through my own health journey, and it was just prompted a total career course redirection as a result of that.
Yeah, I'm finding in all of my conversations that whether it be with a health coach, a doctor, a nurse practitioner, whoever I'm talking to, they've had some sort of either personal situation or maybe somebody that they love has gone through something, and it's brought them towards functional medicine. So tell me a little bit about why you decided health coaching.
Well, I decided health coaching because, when this all went down, I was in my late 40s, and I was like, well, I don't really think I want to take on medical school. So we just got rid of that bucket. And then I looked into sort of being a nutritionist or dietitian, and then I felt like, no, that's too limiting. That doesn't really cover the scope. And really it was about this functional medicine lifestyle piece and how to really support people in, making some lifestyle changes that have to happen. And so I kind of stumbled into it, actually. But I learned about health coaching, and I said, I think that meshes with my history. I have a background in education. So it just sort of all made sense at that point.
Yeah, really cool. So it's interesting how you have this background in education and in doing different things in that arena. Coaching is very much education based, but of course there are other things that go into it as well. So, I have a similar situation. My background is also in education, and I've spent a lot of time working with people and coaching in other ways. And so as it's like, as you kind of move forward, all these little pieces to come together, and they make this nice little coaching puzzle for you. So
absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your health journey. Sure. And what led you to functional medicine.
Yeah, well, in 2010, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called Scleroderma, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's actually it's a scary one. I mean, no autoimmune disease is fun or great, but this one can have fatal consequences if it's not dealt with. And I'm not going to go into the details, but when I saw the rheumatologist and he diagnosed me, his response was, well, we don't really know why autoimmune happens, and we don't really have a cure for it. So we're just going to put you on this methotrexate, which is a really powerful cancer chemotherapy drug, for the rest of your life, and hopefully you won't get worse.
Wow, that's really uplifting.
Yeah, that felt really empowering, and I was like, wow, that's intense. Okay. Well, I immediately was like, no, that's not a good enough answer for me. Mm-hmm. And with the help of my partner, just started doing some research. And ironically, or coincidentally enough, the summer before the diagnosis, we had been introduced to Mark Hyman's, Dr. Mark Hyman, who's a sort of a pioneer in the functional medicine world, in a book of his called The Ultra Mind Solution. And in that book, he really talks about root cause medicine and why disease happens, and it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. And I decided that, you know what, I want to go see a functional medicine doctor and figure out why my body is doing this, like what's going on.
Yeah. Very interesting. So you get this diagnosis that's really scary, and you get no real support from your conventional medicine doctor, who, was probably just following the protocol and their training was. So when what was the thing that as you're reading this book and you're learning more, what was the thing that really resonated with you about functional medicine?
Well, it's because it really looks at the body as a whole, right? It looks at everything. It's not just saying, oh, you've got an autoimmune disease. This is maybe an immune condition, or because it was affecting my skin and joints, you go to a rheumatologist. It's like, well, your whole body is all connected, right? It's interconnected. Right. So I really appreciate everything's attached, the head, the brain, everything's like running in the same operating system. So that really appealed to me. I mean, that sort of holistic, the body, and also that it's sort of like they believe that they can find causes for why your body is sort of attacking itself, or why it's sort of betraying yourself with illness. And so I was really attracted to that. It just felt empowering. It felt like, okay, because I didn't identify myself as a sick person. It's like, no, wait a minute. This is not who I am. I'm gonna figure out what's going on and right the ship. So that's what really appealed to me. And it's really hard to go back in time because I know so much more now. It's really hard to go back in time and really think about what it was, but I really think that was it, was that, hey, disease doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are reasons why our bodies do this. So that really, I think, was the primary thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. In all of the interviews I've done, everybody has mentioned being at a point where they haven't felt supported by whoever their conventional medicine practitioner was, whether it was a cardiologist, a general practitioner, a gynecologist. They just didn't feel supported, and they didn't feel like they were being taken seriously and given really strong answers. But once they found a place where they were given some hope, and they felt empowered, and you used that word, they felt that, okay, there is something that we can do, maybe many somethings that we can do. That kind of gave them a little bit of extra wind in their sails to step forward and go, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's find out how this works. So at the time, were there many functional medicine doctors or nurse practitioners or coaches in your area that you were able to kind of seek out and interview, so to speak, to figure out if they were going to work with you?
Yeah, actually, I just went right to Dr. Hyman's clinic. I was like, he's the guy. He wrote the book. I was in a financial situation where I could travel and go see them. And fortunately for me, functional medicine hadn't really exploded to the level it is now, at least not with Dr. Hyman, who's now sort of impossible to get in to see his doctors. And I was able to get in like 5 weeks. They're like, can you come January 2nd? I'm like, yes, I can. I will be there. I'll make it happen. So I was fortunate in my timing. And I also think that, now I probably could have found a resource in my community. I was in Arizona at the time. And we see more and more and more functional medicine, whether they be MDs, chiropractors, RDs, nutritionists out there in the world, in the landscape. So, but at the time I was like, well, if this guy wrote the book, I'm going to his clinic.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, as you're working with the clinic and you're working with him and you're finding out more information, what was kind of the first thing that was in the plan for you?
Well, when I went to their clinic, it was a very comprehensive, 3-hour experience, right? We're like, we're going to meet at 8, from 8 to 11. And it was just about taking a very detailed history. And then basically the doctor, it wasn't Dr. Hyman himself, it was one of his other colleagues, Dr. Todd Lapine, who's awesome. Like, okay, well, these are the labs we're going to run. And then it was like this, and it was stuff that I'd never heard of. And, it was like, here, we're going to take 11 vials of blood today at our clinic.
Yeah.
And
we're
then
going to make a whole new Holly.
Exactly. We're going to send you home with a stool test and a urine test and this test and fine, whatever. I'll do whatever it takes. So it was a lot of lab tests because they really wanted to see what dynamics were at play of all the possible root causes or contributors to autoimmune disease.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And, I think a lot of people initially maybe would be very overwhelmed with something like that. It's like, I have to fill out how many pages? Want to know if my mom breastfed me? Like,
right.
Why are you asking me these questions? Because again, in conventional medicine, that's not typically a part of the process,
right?
Even in the initial paperwork that's filled out. So, so that's phenomenal that they were so in depth and they really wanted to get to know everything about you. Again, back to what you said about that whole person, right? You have a whole body and you have a whole history that has led you to this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was like, oh, you grew up in LA. Was it smoggy then? I'm like, yeah, it was really smoggy. Did your parents smoke? Yeah, they smoked. I spent a lot of time at a chlorinated pool. I mean, just all of these just details that most doctors don't even think about or ask you about.
Yeah, really cool. So as you're moving forward with learning about all of these things, what were some of the things that you learned that were kind of surprising to you?
Well, a lot of things. Like, I thought I was pretty healthy. Until this diagnosis, I had nothing wrong with me, no issues. I was an athlete, tons of energy. And then this happens. And then I look, the lab results came back and it was like, oh, I have mercury toxicity. That's interesting. I have a leaky gut, which is a whole other story, but most of us have some sort of dysfunction in our gut and microbiome. I didn't really know what that was. And, we talked about that. I had really low vitamin D. I didn't know what vitamin D even really was until that point. Inflammatory. There were probably 8 or 9 things, all kind of minor in and of themselves maybe, but contributed to this storm, so to speak, the perfect storm for an autoimmune to just latch on and take charge. So it was just fascinating to think of like, wow, I didn't know all of this was going on underneath the hood, right? They lifted the hood and looked inside and did a 21-point inspection. We're like, wow, 8 of these things are kind of messed up.
Yeah.
No wonder your car's not running right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, once you began to implement some suggestions, making these lifestyle changes that functional medicine so focuses on, what were some of the things that you began to implement and change?
Yeah, I think another big finding was this gluten intolerance, right? It's not celiac. They call it non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And they're like, gluten, bye-bye, take that out. I'm like, oh, boo, that's very hard. I love bread. So just radically change. I mean, primarily took out gluten, but also really cut back on, any sort of inflammatory foods, sugar, alcohol, eggs. At that time, I don't think the food plan was quite as severe or sort of restrictive as it is now for autoimmune protocol. But I think for me, it worked. I really implemented some, stress. What am I thinking? What's the word? Stress release, relieving things like meditation. I started transcendental meditation and really just started looking at my lifestyle through like what supports my body and what doesn't support my body, and just kind of allowed the body to heal. A lot of it was some supplementation. A lot of it was some therapies to deal with some of the imbalances, getting my gut health squared away.
Mhm.
But most of it was pretty just lifestyle based.
Yeah. So it was there was a multiple step process to
Yeah.
this, and there were multiple things that you implemented.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one thing, here,
Oh,
take these 3 vitamins or these 3 supplements, and we're done with
right.
it. Because again, that reflects the pill for an ill type of modality. But you were looking at the various areas of your life, your nutrition, your movement, your stress response, all of those areas, and making those adaptations as needed. Did you find that there were things that you had to tweak and change along the way?
Let's see. I mean, it took a while to get the meditation piece in.
Mhm.
I would say that I sort of went through varying diets, right? I kind of went the full gluten-free vegan, no, like just really extreme, no alcohol for maybe 9 months or so. And then I was like, I think my body really needs some animal protein. And I started working that back in.
Mhm.
Have really stayed pretty much off gluten since then. Every once, I've had a couple of things, but it's pretty much the non-negotiable in my diet.
Mhm.
And just layering in and out kind of therapeutics to help the mercury toxicity, to help some of those things.
Mhm.
But by and large, it didn't take a lot of tweaking. It just took time, right? It just took,
Mhm.
I think the other thing to understand is when you take the functional medicine route, because it's not alleviating necessarily a symptom, which is a lot of times what a pharmaceutical is designed to do, is to like, oh, your elbow hurts, let's take this and that'll take the pain away.
Right.
But the reason the elbow hurts is still there.
Right.
So I wasn't really alleviating my symptoms from day one, still
Mhm.
had them. But after about maybe, severe fatigue was one of my biggest symptoms. And after about 4 or 5 months, I was like, I think I'm feeling a little bit more mental clarity. I'm feeling a little bit more energized. And it was like just a slow unraveling of all these things that were contributing to my autoimmune. And, after a year, I felt pretty good. After 2 years, I felt a lot better. After 3 years, I was like, oh, wow. After 4 years, so it really took about 4.5 years for me to really get back to pre-symptom,
Mhm.
but I was getting better the whole time.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think it's a really important for a patient who's following this protocol to be patient, right? To be patient with the process. You didn't have a disease from, you didn't go from Friday when you were totally healthy to Saturday you had a disease. That thing was simmering and building for probably 8 to 14 years. So it's going to take a while for your body to kind of get back to normal and healthy.
Yeah, and I think that's really important in going back to what you said about when you initially showed up to the clinic and they were looking at everything. They took
Yeah.
the full history, not just, well, what's been going on in the last few months, but let's go all the way back to birth, and let's talk about your parents and all of those things, because they do, in and of themselves, kind of individually, they might not really have a huge negative effect, but when they're taken all together, piece by piece,
Yeah.
they combine and build up to what you were experiencing. And so
Yeah.
it then takes time to unravel those things, to discover what's really going on and what you need to do and change. So absolutely, patience is very important. So now, knowing what you know and being a health coach, how has that informed your coaching?
Right. Well, it's really, I really do understand that, you almost have to help a person shift their mindset away from, I'm going to feel better next week, to I'm going to start getting better next week. And this is going to take time. And so really shifting that mindset
Mhm.
that's what I work with a lot with clients who are dealing with a complex chronic disease and a complicated treatment plan. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, this is going to happen overnight. So let's just chill a little bit and give it time to work. So I think in that way, I really understand that it takes that commitment and that dedication over time.
Mhm.
And what I also understand is that you're gonna come up with roadblocks. It's gonna be hard sometimes. And how do you stay committed to your journey of healing throughout? And I'm really fortunate. For me, in the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, we talk about strengths, right? And one of my strengths is self-regulation. Like, I'm really good at setting boundaries when I know I'm going for something, and health was so important to me. Other people, they have a strength of like zest and curiosity, and they're going to want to go out in the world and experience stuff. And maybe, oh, right, I'm not supposed to be eating gluten. I just had, that bread with my friends because it was so good. So it's just helping people find what it's going to take for them to stay consistent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you speak of strengths, it also seems like perseverance is one of your strengths, just thinking about how long it took you to feel, exponentially better. You were feeling better after a few months and then after a couple of years, but, spending 4 years really nose to the grindstone, being intentional, regulating well, all of that perseverance definitely comes across. And then also when you were talking about understanding where your clients are, and maybe even where they are in the process, I hear a lot of empathy, that understanding what people are experiencing. And I'm sure your clients feel the same and benefit from that as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, for sure. Once you've gone through it yourself, it's just you have so much empathy for the challenges for everybody. It's frustrating. It sucks being sick.
Yeah,
so
it does. It really does. Whether it's just a cold or something much more major.
Yeah.
So thinking about your days now and how you're feeling. I mean, you're looking so rested and bright-eyed and big smile. So what are your days like now that you have, gone through all of this and you've healed your body and experienced this?
Well, I did just get over a cold. So thank you for saying I look bright-eyed and energetic, because I didn't feel that way a week ago. But my days are great. I have no physical limitations. I love being active. I bike in the summer, mountain bike, hike, snowshoes, ski, cross-country ski in the winter. Like, I have no restrictions on any activity. I have the energy to really give to my work, my clients, my partner, my friends. And I also understand the limitations that my body like, I can't work 40, 50 hours a week. It just is too much. And my body starts to, I'm not going to reverse, but it just gets really tired. So I've really learned like where my boundary is around stress, around commitment, and, how much I can say yes to, because I just can't function. And I don't really know that anybody can, but I do know that some people are a little bit more equipped to kind of push hard. And, I choose to push hard in my leisure activities and have a balance that I don't really like the word balance, but have a nice harmony between work and play and life. And I find that my work also is so aligned with my values that it just is, there's an ease there. So that feels good.
Yeah. That is really beautiful, to be able to not just go to work every day and earn a paycheck, but to be able to enjoy it and to put in, so into people and support people and receive that joy from it. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's one of the reasons why I love coaching so much. It's just
Yeah.
such a beautiful time, and I really enjoy it. So as we're bringing our conversation to a close,
Yeah.
if there's somebody out there who is, listening and thinking, oh man, I've received that diagnosis. I'm there, Holly. But I just don't know. I don't know about this functional medicine thing. I don't even
Mhm.
know if there's people out there that can help me. What would be your advice for them, or your encouragement for them?
Well, I think you have to find someone, whether it be a coach, whether it be someone who's used functional medicine in their own personal life, because there's a lot of skepticism out there. There's a lot of, it's hard sometimes to trust, like, is this real? Can this really help me? And on some level, there's a bit of faith that has to be there, like just trust it.
Mhm.
And find people that are supportive of it, that aren't going to rain on your parade and be like, that functional medicine, that's not real.
Mhm.
Because it is real. I mean, going through the program, I've been teaching at Functional Medicine Coaching Academy for 7 years. I've seen thousands of students come through the program for whom functional medicine worked, and
Mhm.
with much more complex things even than I was dealing with. So I think it's have hope, find some support. There are functional medicine coaches all over the country and world that you can access, and start there. Maybe just start there. And then if you're feeling up for it and have the resources, seek out a functional medicine doctor. And there's some great books. There are some great books that really walk people through,
Mhm.
especially for me, I know on autoimmune disease, from functional medicine doctors that really lay out a plan, and you can almost kind of do it on your own as far as you can get. And then if you're not making progress, well, then maybe go see somebody. But yeah, I mean, it may not be easy,
Mhm.
and your case may be more complex than mine. And I'm not saying that my journey is your journey, but I do feel that even if you don't have a full recovery from what you're going through, I know functional medicine will get you further than you are now. Like, you will feel better, if not, fully restored. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, just find someone who is supportive. And yes, there are so many more resources today than there ever has been. So,
Yeah.
and that's fantastic. That's fantastic that there's resources out there. So, if people want to find you, or if they want to know a little bit more about you and your story, where can they connect with you?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I have Holly Ladd Health Coach is my Facebook page, my business page. So you can find me on Facebook. I'm not a huge prolific Facebook social media person. And then my website is hollylad_healthcoaching.com, where you'll just learn a little bit more about me, hear what other clients have said about coaching. And then if you're interested in coaching and learning more about functional medicine, the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy is a great place to find your community and start to help others and learn more about what this is all about. So, depending on where you are, and I'm always happy to talk with people. I mean, seriously, my email, hollyladhealthcoach@gmail.com. It's there. If you want to just reach out and say, hey, I saw you on this thing, I need someone to talk to, I'm happy to spend some time with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Holly, for taking the time to do this. I will drop all of your information in the description so people can know where to find you. I love what you shared, and I think it's going to be very helpful for those out there who maybe are in a similar place and are looking for a little bit of encouragement. So thank you so much for doing this. And for all of you that are watching, don't forget to subscribe so that you can get all the conversations. And I will see you back here next time. Bye.